Hey, Steve Saretsky here. As always, every Saturday, this is the Canadian real estate market update. If you like these videos, if you get any value out of them, hit thumbs up, subscribe. I appreciate the support. Wanted to touch on a quick thing before I jump into the video here and into the sort of weekly recap. If you like finance, if you're really interested in financial landscape, economics, stocks, all that stuff, there is a service that I have recommended several times on here called Real Vision TV, where they basically, it's by subscription only, and they go around and interview the smartest minds in finance. I've personally recommended some of my clients and friends who are in the investment space to that program, and they have found it tremendously useful, not only for their own portfolio but for their clients' portfolio. And these are guys that are managing hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, highly recommend them. They basically go around and interview again all these brilliant hedge fund guys and get unbiased opinions, not filtered by mainstream media, so to speak. That's a really good program that I'm subscribed to. I'm happy to sort of preliminarily announce that they have reached out to me and are looking at doing a Vancouver real estate feature. They basically want to come and do a feature on us. I mean, obviously, as our prices have inflated exponentially over the last couple of years, there's a huge focus on Vancouver and Canadian real estate in general. I think the whole world is paying attention to us. And this has been a scenario, obviously, that's been playing out really over the last 10 years, particularly from the American side, looking at Canadian real estate and they think it is highly overvalued. And so, yeah, they want to basically do a program on here, and so I'm going to help them out and do that. So I will keep you posted on that video. Hopefully I can release it to you without the subscription, but we'll see what I can do there. But yeah, highly recommend you check them out. I'll put a link down below if you want to go look at them. Real Vision TV. And yeah, I mean, sort of a slower week. I feel like we're sort of building up into the spring market, into the NDP budget, and there's going to be a lot of moving pieces here in the next few months. But I did a video just a couple days ago on BNN talking about my sort of lead up to the NDP's announcement on February 20th. I do think that they're going to do something that's aimed towards house flipping, based on their language, based on their motives. It seems to keep real estate somewhat elevated, but also creating affordability, which I don't think those two can really coexist at this point. Governments are obviously always optimistic for that soft landing. I'm not sure how that all plays out, but it's a very, very fine line. So I do think they're going to, on February 20th, if I had to speculate, I would say they're going to do something towards huge budgets toward increasing supply, because that's really an easy political sell. To say it's a supply shortage really it puts the blame on someone else's hands. You can sort of pass the buck, so to speak, if you just say it's a supply issue. So I think that's what they're going to do, and I think, politically, what can they pass? I think politically they can say, hey, house flippers are driving prices up. Let's put a tax on them, make people have to hold the properties for maybe 2 or 3 years. That's something that I think that they'll probably exempt or find a way to exempt the pre-sale market, because again, I think that market is highly speculative right now. I mean, anyone that is paying the prices that the pre-sale market is demanding, where the pre-sale market today is demanding a 20% premium, 25% premium above market value in order to lock in those profits or that potential gain in the next 2 or 3 years. But the issue that I have is I think that you've already seen the massive amount of capital appreciation in the last couple of years. So to expect the market to go up another 20% in the next couple of years, in my opinion, is a huge risk. I think it's overly optimistic. It could certainly happen, but I think that that's the reality situation, right? Like, at some point, Vancouver condos pre-selling at $2,000 a foot. Are they going to go to $3,000 and $4,000? At some point, there's that threshold, which really leads us into the next topic, because a lot of those prices are obviously predicated on foreign income coming in and supporting that. And as we've seen in the detached market, with Chinese capital outflows dropping precipitously, really in a global scale, right? Like when China's capital outflows peaked in 2015, you could see that in every luxury market, not only in Canada, but in the United States, in parts of Europe, Australia. This was very pronounced. It was very obvious. And then as you've seen those capital flows start to tighten, you've seen obviously in BC a foreign buyers tax. You've seen the shock effect of that, where capital outflows, total dollar volumes in some of Vancouver's luxury markets, such as West Vancouver, dropped, I believe, about 57% since 2015, since it peaked in 2015. And it's a similar case on Vancouver's west side, right? That high-end stuff has really taken a hit. Again, that's after China's capital outflows, a foreign buyers tax, and now more recently, CIBC's no income verification loans, where all you would have to do is put down a 35% down payment. They are now scrapping that. That's been released out into the real estate atmosphere, basically. And what that ultimately does is, they are now having to qualify with the B20 regulations. So they are going to have to get stress tested. You're going to have to verify your income now. So obviously what we saw, and there's lots of data on this, is, you have a more expensive home, a detached home, say in Richmond, a $2, $3, $4 million house, and these areas are declaring poverty-like incomes. So in order now to obtain a mortgage, you're either going to have to declare your income, and so now you're going to have to pay the more tax on that. You're going to have to now declare on your local taxes at that level. So that's one of it. And then, of course, if you are or already have been declaring, you'll now obviously be stress tested. So it's really just another pile on top of what we're already seeing, right? Again, with all those demand side measures tacked onto a detached market that has been slowing, with really very weak sales over the last 18 months, I don't see how that bodes well. And of course, I think that the NDP could potentially bring in that tax as well. And we've seen detached house flipping fall to, I believe it's almost a 10-year low right now. All that house flipping speculative activity has moved into the condo market. I believe condos are at a 9-year high in condo flipping. I determined that as something that's bought and sold within 24 months. That made up about 11% of total sales last year in 2017. It's a lot of the calls that I get is people looking for fix and flips. So you can sort of see again where all that money goes to where it can make money. It goes to where there's a return on investment, and so you've seen a lot of that speculative money flow from the detached market into that condo market. So I think if the NDP tax on that, that could certainly be impactful. And of course the CIBC regulations. So those are sort of the two things that I've been watching really, over the last week or so. I'll obviously update you. I have someone that's going to be attending the BC budget on February 20th, so I'll announce some of those early announcements on Twitter, and then of course I'll follow it up with a video next week. But yeah, that's really it. I'm just constantly trying to collaborate with other people in the industry, whether that's mortgage brokers or developers or other agents, trying to get their perspectives on the market. And the one thing that does seem to be a clear trend is that things are really starting to tighten. Speaking with a home appraiser just the other day, even for him himself, right? He was telling me a story where he was free and clear. He had owned a home that was free and clear. Went to the bank to try to draw some equity out, and they wouldn't give it to him unless they sort of asked. Of course, he didn't want to say he was going to use that to roll into another investment property. And he just said from his appraisal side that things were getting much tighter. Turnaround times getting longer. So yeah, I mean, all things you just try to compile different viewpoints. I think everybody has a slightly different perspective based on really their worldview, how their business is performing, etc. But I'll always try to collaborate all of that, put the pieces together, and provide you with some information. So anyways, hope that video helped, and if you have any questions, comments, on banter below. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.